Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the August 28th, 2024 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. Board, sorry, it's been a long day. Our next meeting is September 25th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. in the Matthew Thornton room. If you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ron, if you could read in the preamble, please.
Good evening to those in attendance and watching at home. For the benefit of those who have not previously attended a zoning board hearing, the procedure is as follows. The petitions will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. However, the chair may change the order at their discretion. The board will treat all petitioners, their representatives, abutters, and other interested parties fairly and with respect. The petitioner will be asked to give an overview of their petition and read through their responses to the criteria applicable to their case, allowing for the board to ask questions after each item. State law and local ordinances establish the criteria must be met in order for the board to grant approval to a petition, and it is the petitioner's responsibility to demonstrate that they have met criterion. Following the presentation, the chair will open the floor for public comment, either in favor or opposed to the request. If necessary, an opportunity for rebuttal will be offered to the petitioner and the public. However, discussion will not be allowed to devolve into back and forth arguments. All comments made shall be directed towards the chair. Should a question be asked, the chair will pose the question to the petitioner. Afterward, the chair will close the public hearing and the board will deliberate and vote on the petition. At this time, please silence all mobile devices.
Thank you, Rod. Okay, so let's, we have a full board this evening, so let's start with our first petition.
Swear in.
What?
Swear in.
We don't need, oh yeah, gee, thank you for reminding me. See, it's been a while since I did this. If you plan on speaking this evening, can you please raise your right hand? If you're speaking in favor of a petition, against a petition, if you're gonna do any speaking, I need you to raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. All right, first petition is Julie Cavicchio. Come on down. Variance under section 3.05 of the zoning ordinance to permit the construction of a shed 15 feet from the rear property line, whereas 40 feet is required. The parcel is located at 11 Belmont Drive in the R1 Residential Bisoils and Aquifer Conservation Districts and the Wellhead Protection Area, tax map 6D, lot 304, case number ZBA 2024-19. If you could make sure that the green light is lit on the microphones, and you may have to pull them a little closer to you, and if you could both state your name and for the record.
My name is Julie Cavicchio.
Okay,
Steve Arlen.
okay. So Julie, you want to give us kind of an overview of what we're looking at before we get into the 5 points?
Sure. So we have, we live at 11 Belmont Drive. We have quite a large shed. The shed is one structure, but it's about 18 feet long and probably 24 feet across. We've lived in the house for 8 years, but the shed has been here for more than 20 years.
Okay.
We purchased a 12 by 16 tough shed, and we would like to put it about 15 feet from our back property line. We have a very small piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
Where the shed is right now, it's already, more than 40, less than 40 feet from the property line. So the footprint is basically what we're trying to stay with. We want to move it over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the shed we have is old, it's run down, doors falling off. So we'd like to replace it with a smaller, new shed.
Okay. All right. So the variance criteria, there's the 5 criteria to go through. We'll probably, after you finish the criteria, if you could just stop in case the board has any questions. But otherwise, if you want to start with what you've completed for community development, we'll go from there.
Thank you. So it's a 12 by 16 shed installed, we'd like to have it installed 15 feet from the rear property line and greater than 15 feet from the side property line. So it's really the rear property line, that's the variance. The rear edge of the footprint goes beyond the minimum setback by 25 feet.
Okay.
So granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because it does not change the environment or impact wetlands. And due to the location, the new shed presents a better visual impact to neighbors. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because it does not impact the private rights of others or crowding of land. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because the proposed position of the new shed provides more space to us, the homeowners, due to the distance from the house. And granting the variance would not diminish the value of surrounding properties because visual impact is improved by the new shed. The old shed is being removed, which is larger and less attractive than the new shed. And owing to the following special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, it's asking me to explain how no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. A 40-foot setback on the rear is excessive in this specific area due to the position of the rear neighbor's house and usable land abutting our rear property line. There is a substantial grade uphill to the neighbor's house with very little usable property up to our property line. There is also a fence between the property to keep our dogs contained within our property. And the position proposed for the new shed was selected in order to provide more usable area in the yard. Due to land grade and 3 locations in the property, the shed is placed in the proposed location. The existing shed is larger than the new shed, and the visual appearance from sides and rear are not desirable. The shed doesn't have siding on it. It's really old and run down. The new shed is a smaller footprint and is finished on the external surfaces.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board regarding?
I have one. Just out of curiosity, why specifically not put the new shed where the old shed is?
So the reason that we requested the variance is because our back property line, the requirement is 40 feet. That puts the shed very, very close to the back of our house. And that's where the shed is right now. It's really in the middle of the yard. And we're trying to kind of create a little bit more yard space, so we'd just like to set it back a bit from where it is.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
It's
so-
still within 40 feet from the back. It's not,
Yeah.
whoever put it in is either there wasn't a variance requirement at the time, or, so it's already kind of, we'd just like to put it a little further back towards the fence.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Rod.
Rod, do you have a question? No. All right. So with no other questions from the board, I'm going to open up a public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Okay, with no public comment, I'm going to just close the board. You know, I remember. It's been that long. You know, I did do this for 15 years. All right. So, all right, that being said, Lynn, how do you feel?
Have you talked to your abutters
Um,
about how they would have been noticed that you're gonna do this?
right.
And have you talked to them and said, do you have any problem with this?
No, I have not.
Okay.
We have relationships with our neighbors. We say hello, we talk to them, we know their names and et cetera. I feel comfortable that they would come to me and say, hey, what's the deal?
Okay.
If they were opposed to this.
All right, good.
So do I hear any other questions from the board, or do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
That'd be great.
I make a motion that the board finds the petitioner's responses to the statutory criteria are sufficient. Proved each criterion is met, the board adopts the petitioner's responses as the board's findings of fact, and further, to grant the variance under section 3.05 of the zoning ordinance to permit the construction of a shed 15 feet from the rear property, whereas 40 feet is required.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Rich, seconded by Lynn. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0. You have 30 days in which somebody can appeal the decision, so if you build before then, it's kind of at your own risk.
Don't
but
build
after
it
that- But after that, you're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good evening.
You too.
All right, next petition. Dynamite Pickleball petitioner and 702 Daniel Webster Highway LLC, special exception under section 2.02.3C1E of the zoning ordinance to permit a commercial recreation and entertainment use indoor/outdoor pickleball facility in the C2 General Commercial District. The parcel is located at 702 excuse me, Daniel Webster Highway in the C2 General Commercial District, tax map 70, lot 23-1, case number ZBA 2024-20. If you could just state your name.
Sure. Good evening. My name's George Chadwick, tonight representing Dynamite Pickleball. With me tonight is Mike Hanning, the developer. As the chair had mentioned, we are seeking a special exception from section 2.023C1E to allow a commercial recreational use. This particular recreational use is a pickleball facility. There'll be 12 indoor pickleball courts and 6 outdoor pickleball courts. The parcel is located at 702 DW Highway. The parcel is zoned C2. Let me give you a little overview of the parcel if you can. If you have a plan or the plan that's on the board, the left-hand side is DW Highway. To the right-hand side, not too far away, is the F.E. Everett Turnpike. To the south or the top of the plan is the existing bowling alley that's zoned C2. The left-hand side is the old St. Cobain parcel, which is zoned industrial. And then to the north and right side of the parcel, it's also zoned C2, but they are residential type uses. We did spend quite a bit of time when we started looking at this particular parcel, sort of irregularly shaped, knowing that we had the residential uses to the north side of the parcel. So after several different concepts, we decided and landed on the one that's in front of you today. And that is, there's a building along the northern property line, the outdoor pickleball courts on the southerly line with the required parking to the DW Highway side of the parcel. Knowing, again, that there was residential uses to the left, we did look at screening those particular uses along the northerly side of the property or between the existing building and the residential uses. There's a 6-foot stockade fence, and if you allow me, I know it wasn't submitted as part of your package.
Actually, if you're gonna walk, I need you to grab the mic over there.
Grab the other one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You can bring that closer too if you need to.
Want to try to let the audience see it as well. And if the chair may, I've got some reduced copies of the plan, if you'd like to see them. Yeah, I've got the landscape plan in the set here, but I can just describe it for you. So as I started to say, on the north side of the existing building, there's a 6-foot stockade fence with evergreen-type trees being constructed. They are firs, maple, or maple's not one of the evergreens, but firs and white pines to help buffer and soften the fence and the exterior of the building. Along the entrance drive, there are also firs and evergreens being planted between the abutter to the front There's actually two different tax lots here, one that's in the front of the parcel and one that's sort of in the back behind the existing structure. The site's a little different in that it slopes up from DW Highway. The pad where the building is located is situated some 20-plus feet above DW Highway. So what that allowed us to do was raise the proposed parking area and screen that area from both DW Highway and the abutters. In fact, the parking is some 12 feet above the road surface of DW Highway. If you look at the abutter to the north, the front abutter to the north, the parking is approximately 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet, depending on where you are, because it's a sloping parking lot, above the elevation of the existing ground elevation where the home is. And then we plan on installing a 4-foot tall fence around that with plantings as well. So top of the fence, maybe average 14 feet above the existing grade of the abutter's house. So again, it is substantially higher than the neighbor. This also allows us to sort of deflect the noise and so on and so forth. The outdoor pickleball courts, again, being on the south side of the building, we decided to put them there to help buffer the noise to the neighborhood. We've got a 2-story building between the pickleball courts and the abutter to the rear. This particular parcel has the benefit of water and sewer, so it has all the utilities necessary out on DW Highway. Like I said, that we really spent a great deal of time trying to fit this use, although it's in a commercial use and it's a commercial zone, it's allowed by special exception, into the neighborhood. Again, the bowling alley being in the, on the left-hand side of the parcel. So there's already precedent in the area of a entertainment-type use.
Are the courts outside going to be lit, or are they only daytime courts?
They are gonna be lit.
They are gonna be lit.
They are gonna be lit. And again, using the building as a screen from the abutter to the rear, and hopefully with the additional plantings around the property, that we're able to buffer the lighting and noise from the residential uses.
Okay.
Sorry.
Planning board is gonna be looking very, very closely at the lighting.
I understand.
And you understand?
I understand, and I do have a lighting plan, it's already been, it's behind that one, it's in this set here that I could give you that shows that we're not spilling lighting over the property line, and
But it's a
we meet the
planning
town
board issue, not,
requirements.
not
Yeah,
us.
yeah, it's more planning and zoning. I was just asking from, we're just more about the exemption. Yes, Rod?
What are the hours of operation that you're planning on?
Well, knowing that the existing pickleball courts in town are pretty full, my client's been there several times, and it's very difficult to get onto the pickleball courts. You know, he'd like to start somewhere around 6 in the morning and end, what time did you say, 10 or so?
Between 10 and 11, I haven't really decided 100% yet.
And if there's issues with the outdoor courts, we can shut them down at an earlier time and just use the, you know, the indoor courts. But we'll be talking to the planning, I'm sure, at length regarding the hours of operation, noise, and landscaping and lighting, and all the normal type thing.
Thank you.
Yep. I am here to address the 4 criteria for a special exception if you want. I have
Yes.
submitted in writing in your packets.
Yeah, if you could stop after each one if there's any questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
The specific site is an appropriate location for such use or uses in terms of overall community development because the pickleball use is an entertainment-type use, and the abutter to the south is a bowling alley, a similar entertainment-type use. The site is located on DW Highway and can handle the traffic, and I did submit a traffic memo as part of the package. There would be an increase in property taxes available to Merrimack, and the project will not cause any additional expenses to the town for essential services. And again, we have taken great effort to try to buffer this use from the neighbors.
Any questions on the first one? All right, B?
B, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood because the use is an allowed use by special exception. Traffic, drainage, and utilities will be from DW Highway and will not affect the neighborhood. And I have checked, they all have capacity for this development. The building will be an attractive structure, and I do have and have submitted elevations to the board. And as I stated earlier, we have gone at great effort to try to screen not only the parking, the building, and any lighting from the abutters.
Any questions? C?
There will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians because access to DW Highway is close to a lit intersection, thus providing gaps in the traffic on DW Highway. And there is adequate sight distance for this curb cut. It is a state road. We would need a state driveway curb cut permit, and one has been submitted.
Okay. Questions on C? D?
D, adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use or uses because, I think I stated this a little bit earlier, but there is municipal water and sewer in DW Highway, all having adequate capacity for the project, as well as power, electric cable, and so on and so forth. There'll be no wells on the property, no septic systems on the property. It'll all be connected to public utilities.
Questions on D? I don't know if community can answer this question, but is this is the property that was supposed to have a hotel on it, correct?
It is.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
I did do that. We also submitted a self-storage facility as well after the
I remember
hotel.
that one.
I remember the hotel, I don't remember the self-storage, but yeah.
This is not the property right in front of the bowling alley.
No, it's the
There's a-
property to the right
there's-
that was cleared.
There's
the
an empty
rectangle.
lot there. This is the property to the right,
Mm-hmm.
between the bowling alley and the houses that are there.
Yeah, I remember
Okay.
that was when that was
Yeah.
cleared, and that was, if I remember correctly, the last I heard was gonna be a hotel. I don't remember the storage,
Yeah.
but, okay. All right, any questions for the gentleman? See you first, okay. All right, since there's no questions from the board, I'm gonna open it up public. Is there anybody that'd like to speak in favor of this, special exception? Is there anybody that would like to speak against, speak in favor? Yeah. Okay, there's a microphone right there. If you could just stand up and state your name.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Tarowski. I live at 82 Beverly Lake Road, and I am in favor of this for many reasons.
Okay,
Most pickleball players are 50% are like 55 and older. It's a great way for them, for everyone to get out and actually get some exercise. And as we all know, as we get older, we don't move as much, and we really need to. And there is a big epidemic of, a little bit of weight problem in the USA. So it really helps people to get out and, get some exercise. It gives everybody an opportunity, but it's also great for the youth as well. It offers an opportunity for youth that really aren't like athletic, so to speak. They really don't want to do a team sport, but most youth can go here and play this game. It's a very relaxed game, really. There's no hooping and hollering, so that neighbors, I'm not sure what's going on with that, but it would actually, and anything that will help with taxes in Merrimack, I'm in favor for.
okay.
Residential, any more residential with, I love kids, I do. Any more kids that's gonna put a burden on our tax system here, if we can do this instead, it's great. And we need more businesses like this. I mean, Merrimack, I'm sorry, but is not a very business-friendly place, and I hate to say that. Past experience, seen that happen many times, and it's really sad to see. So this would be a great way for everyone in our community to utilize it. And there's other, like, birthday parties, things like that. Where can we go now? I can't go to the trampoline park, can you? Can anybody else go to the trampoline park here? Yeah. No, bowling for, yeah, you can?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I pull a hammy doing that. I don't know. Bowling, yeah, you can go bowling, but for people like, that are getting
Trampoline park.
older, 50 and older, it is a great recreational way to get out and meet new people. It's Lynn. That's his name. Lynn, we're
Yeah,
gonna play.
I know,
It's a
I'll shut up.
No, it's really a great way to just get people moving. I've seen really athletic kids come out and lose against senior citizens. It really is a sport. It's a lot of technique in it. It's fun to watch. And like I said, even outside, like, you're not going to hear hooping and hollering and all that stuff. It's a very relaxed sport. It's fun to, get out and get some exercise with. So I'm in favor of this, especially if we can help with our tax burden here in Merrimack. And also, if they're afraid of the lights that this will make they're on a major highway. I'm not sure how that works, but can't imagine that impacting it. But it'll be to the other side anyhow. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. So I hope you guys think about it. It's a great way for people, or bring people into our community as well. Older people that, I don't know, I think we're more responsible. So anyway, I'm
Thank
a
you very
proponent
much.
of it. You're welcome.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anybody who'd like to speak against this petition? Why don't you come up one at a time to the microphone and feel free to state your name and.
Okay, my name is Bill Terrio. I live at 704 Daniel Webster Highway, which is right next door. As for her, she's not living in the neighborhood, so.
Direct it to me. Yep.
Okay, so I don't even understand why she's even, for it. The noise is my biggest thing. Can you guarantee that it's, and you want to start at 6 o'clock in the morning? I just don't understand how you could even consider, putting would you people want to have a pickleball court right next door to your house? I know I don't. I guess that's my biggest bitch is the noise. What is the decibel? Does anybody actually take a record what the decibel is on a racquetball court and what the state decibel record allows? It's as luck would have it, when I got my letter, Channel 9 News had this editorial or whatever it was on this woman that had her house for sale next door to a pickleball court. She had to lower the price 3 times and then finally had to take it off the market because she couldn't sell it because of the noise. Nobody wanted to buy it because of the noise. Is that going to affect my property value? I think it's going to. I don't care how much you get out of taxes out of it. It's not going to, it's going to affect my house value, and I'm just not for that.
So just on my own curiosity, if there was a hotel or a storage area, would you feel differently about that?
We talked him out of it, Chris, out of the hotel, because that was going to be too noisy. As far as the storage unit, it was, it had closed hours. It was at 5, 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, it was done. There was no traffic. The only traffic was people coming in and picking up stuff or delivering stuff and then leaving. As far as the storage unit was no problem whatsoever, no noise.
No, I'm just curious. Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else that wants to speak against?
My name is Tracy Rutherford, and I live at 706 Daniel Webster. So I am not a technical abutter, but I live just on the other side of Bill's property. And like he said, I am extremely concerned about the noise. I don't know that the lights would actually affect me because they are, I am one house over. But the other thing that I'm concerned about is the traffic. I understand it's right on the DW highway, but right now, if I try to take a left out of my driveway, I could sit there for 10 minutes or more. It's extremely, extremely heavy traffic on the DW highway. And going left is nearly impossible. There are probably at least once or twice a week, I leave my house, go right, go to the bowling alley, and turn around and use the light to go back the other way because I can't take a left. So those are my two biggest concerns. I agree that the outdoor courts are gonna be extremely noisy, and if I wanna go outside at 7 in the morning and sit outside and have a quiet cup of coffee, I don't wanna listen to people playing pickleball if it starts at 6 a.m. That's a
Understand.
problem.
Okay,
So those are my two concerns.
thank you.
Hi, my name is Siboniso Amin. I live on 704A. I will be directly impacted with pickleball. The noise, as they said, the traffic and the lights. I just don't see how they can shield my house from being affected. As much as I would like the community to come and have fun, I bought the house because it provided me with privacy, and having the pickleball there, that is not going to be provided. The noise is just going to be enormous. And the research I have done so far since I received the letter, there is nothing, there is no community or residents that were helped by the pickleball, unfortunately. All of the things that I have seen so far, everybody has been complaining about the noise. The value of their properties were also greatly affected. And I bought my house not too long ago because it's still quite new. And right now thinking that if I were to put it on the market and somebody coming in knowing that there's going to be a pickleball there, I do not think I'm going to get the same value for the house. And the lights, as much as they want to say it's going to be shielded, I don't think that's going to be possible. I have sons that have played football, and I've seen those heavy lights come. They cannot be protected from coming to where my house is. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name's Sean Armin. I'm at 704A also. It's my wife. Like she said, we just bought the house 2 years ago. We wanted a little privacy, bought the house way in the back. This court's gonna be basically right on my property line, the indoor court, which that's what I was explained. But the lights, there's nothing there. So the lights are gonna affect us. I have a young kid. He shouldn't be up late listening to the pickleball. And the traffic, like she said, sometimes we can't take a left. And it's very inconvenient. I understand it might be a nice sport or something, but she can have it at her house.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, keep this, sorry.
that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, certainly, oh, one more, I'm sorry, one more. Individual.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Agor. My two parents just came up, talked about the pickleball. I was just listening, and I get it. Business is business. And what I would say is, like, when I heard the plans talking about the lighting and all that, it's like we took into consideration, right? But when business gets affected by, like, oh, we want it to be later, we need more space, will we still be taken into consideration? If I was running the business, absolutely not, right? I'm 23. Just like you said, you got a baby. That's my baby brother. Safety, more traffic in and out of our area, more people we don't know. Granted, Merrimack's pretty quiet, pretty calm place, but there are places to play pickleball, like the local YMCA, which I have a membership to. And I've also seen how much traffic gets in and out of that place with people over 50. She is completely correct. But being younger, being 23, I also know how much me and my friends are getting into pickleball. I also know as a competitor, an athlete, how much hooting and hollering is actually done, anything athletic, 50, 20, 5, 11, whatever the ages is. So a lot of these arguments and points that are being brought up, I feel like we're kind of turning a blind eye to reality. You're competing, you're gonna get loud. You're having a fun time, you're gonna get loud. When business is booming, what can we do more to make business even better, right? These are all questions that I'm asking, listening to we take the residential area into consideration. Well, really, you're not. Because I feel as if the person had enough money to buy this lot, build this, do this project, do this and that. If he really wanted it, he would do it in his backyard or their backyard.
So let me ask a question to you. Do you think you'd feel differently where you were living there if there was no outdoor courts? If it was all indoor?
If it was all indoor,
Would you feel
Yes.
differently about it?
I would feel differently about it personally. I can't say the same about my neighbors or my parents. I would definitely feel different about it. But like I said before, safety comes a big part into play.
Of course.
And the in and out traffic, because it's going to happen. And being like I said, being younger, if I can't park where I want to be, I'm going to park close by. Guess who's close by?
Right.
We are. And me personally, I'm not going to have people in and out of my driveway. Oh, can we just park here? We're just going to. Yeah, absolutely not.
No.
Right.
No,
And that's
of course.
a lot of stuff like that, a lot of what I've heard is we're not taking into consideration of what people actually do, right? Go to the gym, I don't want to park that far, you're going to make your own parking. You go to your child's game, nephew's game, niece's game, I don't want to park that far, we're going to make our own parking. So it's just things to think about that were not actually thought about, just, we took into consideration. Never mind the lighting, that we all know that's not going to happen. So I just think we should really take a deep breath and really just think about it real quick. All
I
right.
agree.
Thank
All
you.
right, Thank you. Is there anybody else that likes to speak against this special exception? Okay. So obviously some of the concerns were noise and lighting, that seemed to be the reoccurring theme.
Traffic.
Traffic is the other one, and I gotta be honest with you, I live on DW Highway, and that traffic is, I agree with everything that they said about the traffic. I mean, what are your thoughts? What are your response to those three items?
Sure. As you stated, the two main concerns are lighting and noise. As I stated early on in the presentation, that we deliberately located the building where we did. It's a two-story building, 30 feet tall. The tallest pole is 20 feet tall. So the lights associated with the pickleball courts will not be seen from the abutters to the rear. Yes, there are lights on the driveway, and there are lights in the parking lot. They've been designed to meet town code. There is no spillover of lights across the parking lot. That'll all be looked at and reviewed by the planning board. When it comes to noise, I'm gonna let my client describe the court, because this court's a little different than what you may see out there today. An old tennis court that's been converted that may be paved. Well, these are built differently, so I'm gonna let my client speak to that.
So the average court is usually a conversion from a tennis court. So it's either asphalt or concrete that they then just change the lines. So the noise off of that is that much greater. For lack of better explanation, the court that I'm gonna use is almost like a mouse pad in the fiber of building it. So that will absorb. One of the problems with pickleball is it's the #1 concern for occupational therapists right now, because that's where they're getting most of their injuries from. And it's because it's being built on surfaces that aren't good for knees and joints. So one of the things that will make this different is the way that the courts are constructed. By having that sponge in the, will minimize, it's not gonna make it noiseless. I'm not, here to pretend that there's not gonna be noise, but between moving it to the side where the bowling alley is, putting a building as a buffer, I think we've done the best we can to minimize that noise, along with a fence and natural vegetation to control it as well. If you were to go to Wasserman Park, I was there the other day, there were 36 people playing. And if you stand up by the parking lot, you cannot hear the pickleball players as far as you can hear them talking, but you cannot hear the balls themselves. Now put a building in between that, and I find it really hard that much, if any, noise would be transferred over them. To kind of answer questions, I would put one in my neighborhood. There is no land. This is where land is. I'm trying to use land to the best of its ability, and trying to also take into account that people do live there, and do the best that I can with that.
Would you consider the location if you did not? Would you consider the location without outdoor courts, or is the outdoor courts the end all be all? Like you got to have it, or you're not building it.
The problem is this: if you don't have the outdoor courts, then you lose all summer business. So you're putting a hardship on a business and saying, you're only going to get them for this amount of time. Yes, there will be some people, myself, I hate the sun. I'd be in air conditioning every day if you let me. But there's a lot of people that actually enjoy being outside. Part of the way I'm doing the membership fee is if they stay through the summer, they get a discount compared to if they just come in the winter. So there is definitely a hardship to the business if there aren't outdoor courts. And it's part of also just the whole membership thing. You can go online, you'd be able to reserve a court indoor or out. I am not opposed to, not allowing, outdoor at, first thing in the morning until, town lets, builders build at 7 o'clock in the morning. So maybe you can't play outside until 7 o'clock. I am more than happy to try and make amends with the neighbors to try and make them happy. But at the same time, if the self-storage unit was going to go in, people say, oh, that doesn't affect us, but the other self-storage unit in Merrimack had a huge drug bust with meth. So to say that would be no crime and no hardship is a gross misstatement.
Lynn?
A lot of the comments tonight are relative to items that will come up in site review at the planning board. Traffic, lighting, hours are gonna be a big one, I'll tell you that, because I sit on the planning board. So you need to be aware of that and think about those things when you come back. If this gets approved, when you come back to planning, you need to be thinking about those things. Had another comment, I forgot it now. This is what happens when you get old.
Rock?
There was a comment made about the parking, and I think Lynn could help with this. I think the planning board will require a certain amount of parking spaces according to how much usage there will be. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can speak a little bit to
Yeah.
that, but I think that should this be approved, the planning board, which is the next step, will then talk about what Lynn was talking about, and the parking will be part of that.
I will say this is a complimentary proposal to the bowling alley. You're building this into a site that you come to recreate.
Destination.
And it's a destination and it makes sense. But it's gotta make sense for traffic, lighting, abutters, and noise. What about clay courts? A lot of tennis courts are clay. Have you looked at those? I'm sure you have.
Tennis courts are great with clay, pickleball not so much.
Why?
I have no idea. I would be lying to you if I told you why. I've been researching this for almost 2 years now. I know of 0 clay courts.
But why not? Has,
My
It has to do with- it has
my
to do with-
easy
Okay.
answer, my easy answer would be the cost as far as maintaining clay courts would
Okay.
be substantial.
okay, I was just, you mentioned the concrete and you didn't mention clay, so.
the ball.
Jen.
All right, so, moving on. Any other questions from the board? Any other comments from the public? Hold on. Is there, so if you, hold on. If you want to go to the mic,
Go to the
please.
mic.
Now, the noise is actually the racket and the ball. I don't see what noise it is, what the court has to do with anything with the
Oh, it does.
noise.
It does.
It's both.
It's directed.
Oh, sorry.
Keep everything from the board. Okay. So your concern is basically the ball hitting the racket?
The
Or
ball hitting the
club
racket.
or whatever, okay, all right, okay,
All right.
fair enough.
Jen.
Have you been to a pickleball game? Has everybody been to one? Oh, okay. Where they're proposing to put this? Between that traffic that you guys have to
Hey,
live with every day.
Jen,
or they
this
have to-
way-
oh,
this
sorry,
way or I'm gonna
that
have
they
to ask you to
live with
sit
every
down.
day. Sorry, guys. So that they have to live with every day, that's horrible traffic. You won't hear any ball, you won't hear anybody talking because of the traffic that their houses are on. I mean, that Route 3 is, my house, I don't even hear my neighbors next door pounding and doing whatever they're doing with their mechanics because it's so noisy on Babusick Lake Road. Route 3 is way busier than my road. So I don't understand where the noise is coming in with all this, especially with the building being in a buffer. You won't hear anything from inside the building either. It's not like you're having a high school football game there with big lights. They won't even notice, the lights will be nil compared to what they deal with every day with traffic going by and all the noise from that. So I don't understand where the noise is coming from, but go to a pickleball game. The ball is way different than a tennis ball. That's why you can't use that type of court. It would just plug. So that's why.
Do you have a comment? Before I close the public hearing, is there, hold on a second, I'll open it up to the board questions in a second. Before I close the public hearing, is there anybody else wants to make a statement? Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing. I'm closing the public comment section.
So, as far as when you go through the special exceptions, the use developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Have you done studies on noise? I don't know that lights are gonna be the issue, but I think noise is still the biggest thing, and I don't know that that's really addressed to satisfy them. I mean, I know I wouldn't wanna live next door to an outdoor court where people are cheering and hollering and
Yeah,
the
and
pops.
Planning board.
I haven't
Okay.
done noise studies. Looking at this location, if you stand there, you hear tractor trailers going by from the highway, right behind it. You have Daniel Webster Highway on that side, you hear that noise. I would find it very difficult that by putting the outdoor courts on the bowling alley side, that I am impacting the noise to that substantialness. When you look at, if you go to Wasserman Park, yes, if you listen to the Channel 9 thing, it was, I believe it was a lady in Virginia. It was literally put by the town on a town park on the property line. I'm not doing that. I'm trying to give a buffer. I'm trying to do the best I can. Is there going to be some, if someone he made a great point about people hoot and holler. I can't control that, but, that being said, if we control the hours that it's open outside, we can minimize that. And I am open to that, and I certainly, I want to be a good neighbor. And at the same time, though, 7% of United States plays golf. 13.5% play pickleball, and it's growing. They just gave their first college scholarships for pickleball. So there's a huge need in the state for indoor courts. It does flow into outside when you talk about accessibility and actually giving a full service to a customer.
Yeah,
And the noise thing, that's a planning board. We're looking at special exception from
well,
that.
how's that different, where it's not adversely affecting the neighborhood?
It's a good point, but again, we're looking at the planning, if approved, and I see where you're going with that, I think. If approved, the planning board is then going to really, that's where they really clamp down on the whole noise, and they make the final call. I mean, we're saying, yes, they could, yes or no, we would allow this to be constructed. The planning board will then say, okay, based upon what we require for noise and light pollution and all that, that's where their hours of operation, parking, they're gonna come down on all of that. And we do look at it from a special exception as to whether or not we use it. And I do see where you kind of cross over a little bit, but there is a fine line as far as that a lot of the noise comment, they can only address so much. The planning board is going to address
More of that, okay.
heavy onto that
So
side.
the other part of it was property value impact. Right, have we done
Again.
studies on that?
Planning board.
Yeah, it's actually a little more on the planning board side from that perspective.
This is saying whether this use is an appropriate, regardless of everything else, whether this use is appropriate for this particular property in this area. That's all we're looking at. We're not looking at, but we will be, looking at noise, property values, traffic, light, all of those things are gonna come into play. And some of the things I've heard tonight probably won't go very far with the planning board, but I can't speak to that. Is this an appropriate use for this property? That's all we're looking at, and that's all we can look at.
Does the planning board look at parking?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, yeah.
They're gonna look at parking, they're gonna look at the traffic flows, they're going to look at noise, they're gonna look at noise pollution, they're gonna look at light pollution.
Hours of operation.
Hours of operation, they're gonna look at all of it.
If this is like tennis and you can have doubles. If this is like tennis and you have doubles, that means a court has 4 people. So you look at all the courts, and then if you have a similar number of courts in the building, that's a lot of parking.
And again, and they'll
Planning
have to
board has
accommodate, yeah.
specific guidelines as to how much, based on the usage, how many parking spaces they need.
Okay.
Yeah, so, thank you for the additional explanation. I wanted that for me and
Sure.
others here, so.
Sure.
Thank you. It's still in regards to the noise, and I think it is a very key question, even though I'm not a seated member today, but will there be tournaments and social events that you offer, like birthday parties, on the exterior courts and specifically tournaments, or is that really more like individual matches that couples or friends?
Careful.
This,
The answer is, I don't know right now. Those are all possibilities. My thought process is either A, I need to limit it because of parking to what I do for a tournament, or B, work with the bowling alley to, because I don't think I've ever seen that parking lot half full. So there are options that I've started to talk to them about, but I'm certainly not gonna have, a tournament that I can't handle the parking, because they won't come back. So it does me no good to have one great tournament that the world shows up at, and then I never have another one.
Thank you.
Yep.
all right, if there's any further comments from other, I'm going to,
I just, one thing I'd like to just remind the board, we are in a commercial zone. And I think that's the crux of everything, in that there could be other commercial uses on this piece of property that are a lot louder than what this use is. It's zoned commercial. All the abutters are also located in a commercial zone. All the residential uses, it's not a residential district, they're in a residential, commercial zone, the same zone we are in.
I'm closing the public portion of this hearing. From the board, what are the deliberations?
I just have one quick comment. I did spend some time looking up to see what exactly the sound volume is of pickleball, and I understand this is a planning board issue, but the consensus that I found on multiple sites is that at about 100 feet away, and you can look at the map for scale, the sound rating is about 7 dB, which is equivalent to a highway, living on a highway. So it's not the loudest thing in the world. My only thought is that we're close to a highway, and then we're also close to DW Highway, which is congested. So I don't know what all of that is going to compound to, but we are still talking about increasing sound volume in that area.
Lynn?
The fact that it's right beside the bowling alley, again, I go back to my initial comment in that this is a complementary use to that property. Planning board is gonna be looking very, very closely at the noise levels, at the parking, at the lighting, all of those things that I think the abutters are concerned about, rightfully so. This is their home they're talking about. And I think when you come to the planning board, you have to have those concerns in mind and be ready to address them, whether it's buffering, whether it's different lighting. I think for what we are doing tonight, I think this is an appropriate use for that property if the planning board can make agreements with all people involved that it works. In which case, I will make a motion.
Is there any other comments from the board before? Any more comments before a motion? All right, Lynn, if you want to move forward.
I'll make a motion that the board finds the petitioner's responses to the specific exception criteria of the zoning ordinance are sufficient. Proved each criterion is met, and the board adopts the petitioner's responses as the board's finding of fact, and further to grant the special exception under section 2.02.3.c.1.e of the zoning ordinance to permit a commercial recreation and entertainment use indoor-outdoor pickleball facility in the C2 Central Commercial District, subject to the following conditions: that the petitioner shall obtain site plan approval from the planning board for the proposed use, which is not a given.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstain? It's 4-1-0. So the next step would be the planning board, and it sounds like you probably have some homework to do before, to address a lot of those concerns, to make sure that
We
it's a
really
good
appreciate
fit.
the board's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next petition. John Flatley Company, petitioner owner, variance under section 1.710, variance under section 17.10.4G of the zoning ordinance to permit a parcel with more than one discrete business to be entitled to 2 wall signs per each discrete business that occupies at least 2 units. The parcel is located at 685 Daniel Webster Highway in the I-1 Industrial and Aquifer Conservation Districts and Wellhead Protection Area Tax Map 6E Lot 3-4 is case ZBA 2024-20-21. State your names for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carl Foley from Fieldstone Land Consultants.
Kevin Walker from the John Flatley Company.
Okay. What can we do for you gentlemen this evening?
If I could, Mr. Chair, I'd like to pass out just a handout for you.
We actually don't take handouts at
I
meetings.
figured you might say
Yeah.
no. Well, I'm sure you're very familiar with the site. It's a 685 Daniel Webster Highway. There's an existing facility there that is housing 20 units. And currently, there is one of the units at the very end is currently occupied. And under the variance, or under the zoning ordinance, we are required only one sign per business owner. In this instance, the owner of the unit actually owns the other unit right next door. So they own 101 and 102. And what we'd like to do, what we're requesting, is to just take the sign that's existing and you duplicate it on the other unit. So we have the entrance, the main entrance to 101 and 102, it's gonna be owned by the same business. It's just gonna have the same sign. The zoning allows, like if there was another entity, another different business, to put a sign there. And what we're saying is, the owner of units 101 and 102 would like to take the same sign that's existing right now and just duplicate it right next to the other unit. So there's unit 101 and unit 102.
So inside these two units, is there a divider that separates them, or is it just one open area?
So it is just one big open area, but with two separate doors. That's just the way the building was built. And the way the regulations read is, we have a ground sign. So because we have a ground sign, we are allowed the square footage of the wall sign can be 1 times the length of the unit. In this case, they have 2 units into one, basically. So it's basically, they have 80 feet of one building. They currently have a 40 square foot sign. We're asking for basically the same exact 40 square foot sign on the other unit, both for aesthetics and both so people know that they can go into both sides of the unit.
So it's like to mark the door so people recognize that the door belongs to.
Right, it won't look like a vacant unit. They'll know that this is both the same company.
Okay.
And they can go in
And you
and check
can't
that
put
out.
the sign between the 2 units.
Right, and that's just a quirk of how the building was built. Now, we call these flex buildings. We call them flex buildings because they're 4,800 square foot units, okay? Like, we call them flex because if somebody wants, in this case, they took 2 units, they wanted 9,600 square feet. So we didn't put the wall up between those 2 units. So if somebody wanted 5 units, they'd have 200 feet of the front. They'd have 5 units, and maybe there'd be 5 single users on the other side. We have a similar type of buildings in Nashua. We have one with 10 different users, and we have one that a brewery took the whole building. And that's what we do call, that's why we call it a flex building.
Right.
Somebody needs a bigger unit or a smaller unit or whatever it might be.
Lynn?
How many signs does the brewery have?
They have one, but it's a big sign.
Is
So
there,
that's the-
is
so-
there any reason why you can't take, you've got the 2 units, instead of having boom and boom, have a nice laid out bigger sign which is more visible, and can't you do that?
So it's a good question, and.
Of course it is.
Sadly, I mean, the answer in this particular case is no, everything's already wired, so, there's the downlit,
Oh, that's easily fixed.
lighting and the placards are there. And also, if this were one big building, I think that would be a reasonable, request or whatever you'd like to call it. But where these are still multiple units in there, and this company is not taking the other 8 units, that's the reason. It would look,
Try to keep it symmetric.
yeah, it wouldn't be symmetric. Thanks, good word.
I think it would
So-
look better if it was one sign over both units.
But you can't do that based on the fact that the way you built the building is there's a parts that go back and forth.
Correct,
so you
and it
can't
just-
put them
Give me,
across.
give me,
But, hold on a second. Aesthetics aside, relax for a second. All right, community development, I have a question. Yeah, hi. That's okay. So quick question for you. If this variance is granted, is this just for this unit or just for this business? Or is this become grandfathered for the next company that comes in there, or, you know, or are we just granting it for this one particular business, this one particular time, and that's it? Or are we gonna set a precedent that anybody who moves into this space is gonna be able to put up 2 signs?
The latter. So we worded it as permit a parcel with more than one discrete business to be entitled to 2 wall signs per each discrete business that occupies at least 2 units. So if I went in there and occupied only 1, I wouldn't be entitled to 2 wall signs, I'd be entitled to 2. If I occupied 3, I'd still only be entitled to 2.
Okay, so now I know that they're building more buildings over there, correct? And so this is going to flow over to those buildings, so if somebody over there buys 2 of their spaces,
Yes.
they'll be able to put up 2 signs.
I believe
So we're
so.
setting that precedent.
Yes, I believe so, because we had an application to subdivide the lot. I don't believe that ever fully went recorded, if I remember correctly.
It's in the
So it is
process.
one big lot right now, and I believe it would carry for all 3 of those lots.
It'll carry for all 3 of
3
those lots?
buildings, yep.
Even though that it would be separate lots
I
after it's
believe
been subdivided?
so.
Okay.
I can check with Robert.
Just want to make sure that, just want to know what type of
Okay.
precedent we're
If you
setting.
give me like 2 minutes, I will check with Robert and get
Alright.
back to you.
So why don't we, while she's checking on that, if the board's okay with that, why don't we have the gentleman, unless Rod, you have a question before we have him read into the criteria?
Yes, just quick question related to Lynn's comment about, instead of 2 signs, a larger sign. A while ago, when they were doing the 360 where the trampoline park is and all that, I think we had restrictions to sign sizes.
Yes.
If they had a land sign and then they wanted a sign on their business.
Yes.
I think that needs to be taken into consideration. Should we try and do one sign to go the length of 2 units?
So we're not, we're not.
No,
looking-
okay.
I'm just responding to Lynn's comment about maybe a longer sign.
my suggestion.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
and that's something we'll take into consideration
Right.
if that comes up.
Okay.
But in this case, this variance
We're
is for
talking about two
two signs of the same size, same design, just to make it look aesthetically pleasing from the outside of the building is what we're looking at. So if you would, gentlemen, if you could read in each of the variance criteria, and we may have questions after each one, please. Thank you.
Number 1, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because the total square footage and appearance of the proposed wall signs would be the same as that which could be installed should 2 units be rented by individual businesses rather than one business. It is in the public interest to have the 2 units clearly labeled with wall signs to distinguish this double-unit business from neighboring businesses. The design of the signs will not create any health or safety problems and will provide easily identifiable signage for the tenants and community. Good visibility for the tenant will help the business thrive, which is a benefit to the community. The proposed use will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health or safety or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. For these reasons, granting this variance would not be contrary to the public interest.
Any questions? Okay, number 2.
Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed because we believe the purpose of the ordinance is to minimize the visual clutter of signage along buildings to maintain the visual aesthetic of the town. The ordinance could allow up to 26 wall signs at the subject property should each unit be leased by a discrete business. The proposed wall signs would be no different that would be allowed otherwise, since this proposal will be the same as what other would be allowed for discrete businesses entities in these 2 units and will result in no negative impacts to the public, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and will not threaten public health, safety, or welfare. We believe that granting this variance would observe the spirit of the ordinance.
Number 3.
Granting the variance would do substantial justice because This variance for 2 wall signs for one discrete business entity will do substantial justice. The development of 685 Daniel Webster Highway allows for up to 26 businesses to establish with a single curb cut. The proposed signs will be served to identify the businesses located within the Commerce Park. The subject property will have 26 units when complete, allowing for one business that is leasing 2 units to install 2 wall signs would not impact the visual appearance of the neighborhood or have negative impact on safety, and the spirit of the ordinance would be met. Granting this variance would do substantial justice because it would allow for the productive use of the property. As described above, in other words, a denial of this variance request would be an injustice to the client, as there would be no apparent gain to the general public by denying this application.
Number 4.
Granting the variance would not diminish the values of surrounding properties. The existing site is located in the industrial district and is bordered by a mix of industrial and commercial properties, along with a residential development to the northwest. The commercial and industrial establishments in this area have similar signs to advertise their businesses, and therefore the proposed wall signs for this business will match the visual appearance and essential character of the neighborhood and will not diminish the value of surrounding properties. There is no evidence that the proposed signs will have a deleterious effect on the surrounding property values.
Unless any hardship.
The subject parcel, located at 685 Daniel Webster Highway. This section of the Daniel Webster Highway where the property is located is 4 lanes wide with an oversized right-of-way. The right-of-way along this property is disproportionate with others in the area, cutting 24.28 feet into the property. The general public purpose of the ordinance provision is to minimize the visual clutter of signs located on businesses in the business parks and to maintain the visual aesthetic of the town. The proposed signs will not increase visual clutter. It will be the same amount in placement of signage as would be allowed if the 2 units were leased by discrete business entities. The proposed wall signs will be aesthetically superior or similar to other signs in the area. Because of the special conditions of the property listed above, we do not believe that a fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application that provision to the property.
And then proposed use,
B.
please.
The proposed use is reasonable one because we believe that the proposed use is a reasonable one for all the reasons previously stated. The following is an outline of why we believe the proposed use is reasonable. Granting this variance would allow for the installation of 2 signs that are legibly to passerbys. This project will have no measurable negative impacts on the surrounding or their property values. The wall signs would not be contrary to the public interest. It is the same amount of signage that would be allowed if the units were rented by separate businesses. The proposed use, 2 wall signs, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. This proposal would, in our opinion, observe the spirit and intent of the ordinance. The signs will help this new business and recently constructed building grow and flourish. Since the proposal will provide the above and will result in no negative impacts to the public, we believe that the proposed sign is reasonable.
Okay. Does everybody feel that he met unnecessary hardship has been met? Okay, you don't need to read them.
And then the next one's
No,
okay.
no, next one's fine. Yeah, you don't have to read A, no. If you meet unnecessary, if you meet B, then you don't need to move on to A,
Thank you.
unless that's changed, which, not that. Yes?
Question for staff. Regardless of how we vote on this, is there anything that would prevent them from doing?
Mike, you gotta use your mic.
Sorry. Is there anything that would prevent them from doing a larger sign on the 2 units as opposed to 2 smaller signs?
No, because they're entitled to 1 times the length of the units they occupy.
So if
So it'd
they're
be-
occupying 2 units,
They'd be allowed, I believe Kevin said 80 square feet. They'd be
okay, so
allowed-
they could do 1 sign
that is 80 square
That's-
feet.
That's bigger.
Yes.
This is just a professional opinion on your part. I would think, from the public's perspective, don't look at me like that. Going down the road, and you see these two signs and two doorways, and, you know, which one is which, I'd rather have, if I were owning this, I would rather have one big sign. That's your preference, and I'm not gonna force my opinion on you either way, or that's just my opinion. Scott?
Scott, yes.
Any requirements for,
Is your mic on?
yeah, is it not working?
Pull,
Try again.
a little closer. There you go.
There
Yep.
it goes.
Yeah.
All right, so, my question is, maybe a couple parts to this, but is it a requirement of yours, or like a covenant for the tenants? Do they have the choice of having one or two signs? Or are you requiring them to have discrete signs on each?
It's not a requirement of ours, but this was actually a request of the tenant.
Okay, all right, so they do have the option to do as they choose. There's no requirement, and they're responsible for getting the sign, hanging the sign. That's not something that they're paying the developer to do.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
So they wanted two signs?
Yes, the
Oh,
people,
that's-
the
that-
people
that
in the
answers it.
unit
That's real-
answers.
that's real easy.
Thank you.
Probably should have said that at the beginning.
I think you did. All right, any other questions? Concerns, thoughts? All right. I'll open the public. Is there anybody like to speak in favor?
Grace, you out back there?
Anybody like to speak
I think it's
against?
Justin.
All right. I'm going to close the public hearing.
All right, Patrick, would you like me to chime in on my
Yes, I would
response?
before there's a motion, please.
Okay, so I asked Robert, if he could clarify, will granting this variance transfer to the other two buildings once the lots get subdivided? Once they get subdivided, it will not transfer to each individual business, it would only apply to 685. If they choose not to finalize that subdivision, it would go for any business on any of those three buildings.
I think it's important for you guys to know that as well,
Yep.
for anybody who should end up purchasing multiple units when they're over there, so. Okay. That being said, public hearing is closed. At the will of the board, do I hear a motion or a discussion?
All right,
We'll speak at once.
you wanna do it?
No, I just want to say that I like what you guys are doing. I like the content of this. I just hate the way this variance is worded. 'Cause I'm sorry. If somebody wants 3 units, now they got to choose which 2 units to put their signs on.
Yep.
That
Well-
seems. I'm gonna shut up.
Or put one sign that is 3 times the length, so,
It took us
You can make a motion?
like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
you gonna make it?
Oh.
I'm sorry, did you add to that, Colleen?
I was just saying it took us like 30 minutes, Robert, Casey, and I, to word it correctly. That made it sound right. It was very, very difficult.
Wow, okay, hope you feel better now. Make a motion.
I make a motion.
You can make the motion.
Go.
Oh, okay. I make a motion that the board finds the petitioner's responses to the statutory criteria are sufficient, proved each criterion is met, and the board adopts the petitioner's responses as the board's findings of fact, and further, to grant the variance under section 17.10.4 G of the zoning ordinance to permit a parcel with more than one discrete business to be entitled to 2 wall signs per each discrete business that occupies at least 2 units, subject to the following condition: the applicant shall obtain sign permits for each proposed wall sign.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Rich, seconded by Lynn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained, 5-0-0. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Have a great evening. Any new business? Colleen? Any questions? Anybody want to talk about the meeting minutes?
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes as distributed.
Second.
Motion made by Lynn, seconded by Rich. All in favor? Aye. All right, okay.
I
All
make a
opposed?
motion, we
Oh, sorry.
adjourn.
All in favor? Actually, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Lynn, seconded by Rich. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. Have a great.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday weekend. Yes.